So I'm back to do some predictions for UFC 193, which happens to be happening in Australia, which means that it is full of some Australians which I don't know, I'm not very familiar with. It also happens to be full of women as well. In fact, their main and co-main event are women's bouts. The main one is for the bantamweight title. It's alright, I'm trying to pull myself up without throwing my my laptop, which is balanced on my knee, onto the floor. I'm not used to this laptop stuff yet. Ronda Rousey is fighting Holly Holm. She's seeded 7th, does have a perfect record, but you know, Ronda is supposed to just be the person who eats everybody alive, and nobody can beat her, blah 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 blah. Frankly, I get bored of it. I do get bored of it, particularly when, you know, this is also the woman who runs around with the WWE crowd and stuff like that. And that's not a diss to professional wrestling at all. Anybody who knows my background knows that before I was interested in MMA, it was professional wrestling that I was interested in, and in fact my university thesis involves in-depth analysis of professional wrestling. So, but I do think that these are two different things that should be kept separate at all costs. The other one is the strawweight title fight. Joanna with the impossible surname and Valerie somebody or other, who is seeded number 9. Do you know Joanna will probably manage to keep her title as well. Mark Hunt and Antonio Silva. This is a stand-up fight, 70 and 79%. And I think Mark Hunt is not only seeded better than Antonio, I think he probably stands more of a chance of winning as well. But I imagine this is going to be quite a sort of slow slugfest, really. Not something that I'm terribly interested in. Uriah Hall and Robert Whittaker. This could be quite good. Uriah Hall, if he's on top form, can be excellent in terms of being a striker. Absolutely excellent. Robert Whittaker, according to this, is more well-rounded, statistically speaking, still with the emphasis on his feet. If I was him, I would try to take it to the ground. I really would, because Uriah Hall's statistic for that is only 8%, and I don't think people should take the chance of messing with him on the feet, really, if they can help it. Anyway, this is Robert Whittaker's New Zealand, so obviously he's going to be sort of the home crowd favourite there. I still think Uriah Hall, if he's on form, then he may win that on the feet. Stefan Struve is back. Stefan Struve, you'll remember, was a great prospect at one point. He's now seeded 14th, and that's largely because he has had medical issues which have kept him out for a while. And, you know, I think his performance has maybe suffered because of that. Jared Rosholt, 13 and 2, whereas Stefan Struve is 30 and 7. I do hope that Stefan Struve wins this one, just because I think it's nice to see him back on his feet, and it would be nice for it to, you know, continue to get back to maybe where he was before his sort of heart issues. Jake Matthews and Akbar Arolia, don't know. Never known them. Although you've got a 23 and 9 Mexican going up against an Australian with just 9 and 1 as his record. Kyle Noak and Peter Sobotta. I like Peter Sobotta. I do like Peter Sobotta, and I hope that he wins this one. But Kyle Noak, as well as being Australian, is quite well known to me as well. And this is going to be striker versus groundsman, with Kyle Noak probably being on the feet. Anthony Perosh and Gian Vellante. This is not such an easy one to call. Maybe I'm just sort of thinking that Anthony Perosh isn't what he was. I don't know. I might go for Gian Vellante on that one. Richie Vakulik and Danny Martinez, don't know. Don't think I know either of them. Let's look at the bottom of the card. We have got Daniel Kelly and Steve Montgomery. I don't know them either, but this is Australia versus the USA, and the USA, the guy, Steve Montgomery's nickname is apparently the Creepy Weasel, which does amuse me somewhat. We have an Englishman on the card here, according to this. Stephen Kennedy, don't think I know him, and Richard Walsh, don't know him either. However, again, big disparity here between records: 22-7 for Stephen Kennedy, 8-4 for Richard Walsh. And you can take these things in two ways. You can say 8-4 is quite good because it looks like the guy's probably been fighting calibers, and therefore his 8 are, have forced him to mature and be better. Whereas 22-7, that could be seen if it was matched with maybe others where you had a reasonably high score on wins and a low score on losses, not so good. Or you could say, this might be a squash match, 8-4 person from Australia, maybe he hasn't been out of the continent, hasn't fought much, and, so the people he's fought have been low calibers, and in that respect, he's only managed 8-4. Whereas Stephen Kennedy, those 22 could be quite high calibers, and so 22-7 is a huge disparity in record, therefore it's a squash match. Without knowing these fighters, it's impossible to say which one's which, and often it isn't as clear-cut as that. They always also try, when it's lower down the card, to put people who are going to match up in style, so they'll put a striker versus a groundsman, whereas higher up the card it's usually striker versus striker, or it's a bit of a freak show if it might be two old people who've been around a long time. And here you see you've got, again, in terms of the statistics, 50% for Richard Walsh, 41% for Stephen Kennedy. That's knockouts for Richard and submissions for Stephen Kennedy. So you can see that they are more one thing than the other on that, and so the battle is going to be stand-up versus striker there. Anyway, let's move on. James Tasri and Anton Zafir, don't know. And the very bottom of the card, Ben Nagayan and Ryan Benoit. Ben has got a better record. He has got a better record, but for some reason I remember Ryan Benoit. I don't know why. So I'm going to go and say I think he might win that one. And that is my predictions for this week.